We gonna actually start this, or just gonna in media res it?
We probably should in media res it, just because it's like, because I don't like the whole like hello thing. I think it's sort of played out at this point, especially because we've done it for every single radio production
we've ever been
in.
I like that though. I like saying I miss saying hello. You know, actually, for a brief period, when I was working at Dairy Queen when I was in high school, I would say hello every time somebody would pull up. And
that's psychotic.
That's super psychotic. And my Korean boss got up to me and he was like, "No, stop! You're scaring people."
Really?
Said, yeah,
do you think anybody complained?
Nobody complained. No, I mean, it was one of those things. You know, when you're working somewhere and it's late at night and everybody's just a little loopy and everybody's under the impression that they're friends with the boss for a brief period of time, and you start to pull a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I was oh, hello, welcome to Dairy Queen. And
you were training yourself for radio.
I was training myself for radio, and the boss didn't like it, so he said no.
Yeah, he didn't want. He smushed your dreams right then and there.
Yeah.
Well, I found that when I was working, I would find these sort of catchphrases so that when I interacted with a customer, it was the least amount of like brain power required.
Oh no, that's totally normal. You tell people to have a nice day, or you know.
Well, for a while I was okie dokie, right? Or like no worries this is a B. For a whole, like I would say 6 months when I was working for Fred Meyer. Shout out to my boys and Fred Meyer.
Monroe Fred Meyer.
Yeah, I would say okie dokie. You know, to my coworkers when they asked me for something, to customers, and at one point, one of my coworkers built me a name badge, a custom one. It was gold that said Dylan Straley, okie dokie, in quotes underneath it. So if that ain't just the cringiest thing you've ever heard to identify myself.
Well, when they pay you minimum wage, you put in minimum cognitive effort.
It's true.
So you're making Mad Libs with every single human conversation, right? I feel like every time somebody would complain, I'd always get caught off guard. I'd say, "Thank you very much," and they, never mind.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I'll go clean the bathroom.
I would say, like, no worries, regardless of the context, right? There'd be like, "Can I have a chicken wing, please?" I say, "No worries."
Who's kidding? Who are we kidding? Who's kidding? Who are we kidding? I do that in real life conversations every day.
That's true.
I do that in conversations with my friends. I do it in conversations with my wife. You have like 4 or 5 phrases that you have in the bank, so that even when you're thinking about other things, you can deploy
throw them out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big sounds good guy, especially, and you know, we're two married men. I mean, and this is a safe space.
Sorry, ladies.
Hey, locked in. But look at us, just 2 married, employed people at the ages of 24 and 24, just hanging out
in a basement.
I know, super relatable people. You know, to the general world.
No, you know, it's all about people looking in.
It's true. We've
about
got
the
our
mystery, the mystery of Shadrach and Dylan Straley.
The divine mystery.
I don't know about divine mystery, but certainly a mystery. More like a criminal mystery of some sort, something that some sort
like
of
a true crime
a detective would be solving. Our mystery. How the hell did these 2 have the confidence to get this far somehow?
I mean, here we are, so freaking self-absorbed that we have a podcast, and then also it's videotaped. It's like a second level of self-absorption.
And there's a reason, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm wearing a beanie for the first time in my life.
And that's also related to self-absorption,
I
say.
suppose so.
Yeah.
I suppose so.
See, here I flaunt it, right? Like, it's all in glory. You can see the arches as they grow, you know. Not quite as recognizable
much like
as
the Grand
Golden.
Canyon, over the course of millions of years, was carved out by a water flow.
A small trickle of water, except for this is over the course of 4 years.
Yes.
It has hit me like a freight train. This is a Noah's flood situation.
Noah's flood situation.
Yeah,
Noah's flood
I just
situation.
wish it ended after 40 days. I just have to endure this.
Yeah, so, you know, speaking of water, what's your whale?
What's my whale this week?
What's your whale this week?
Well, my whale this week is that I have a dog now.
Wow.
I know. It's kind of strange, you know, as a childless married man.
A what?
Childless.
Let's sit on that for a second. Childless.
Children.
With childless, me, I'll go down there. Wait, it's from Louisiana, straight from Louisiana.
The
Dylan
Creole
Straley.
population in Michigan is very strong. They've
yeah.
influenced me in my time here. So it's
Pierre Dylan Straley.
Pierre. I wish, dude. That'd be sweet. That is
Like
French
Pierre.
name. Yeah, I've got Dylan. It's just garbage.
Which
name.
is, you know, I think pretty indicative of your whole demeanor. Dylan. I feel like Dylan is something that somebody who wears like a Coors
I don't know
Light.
how to feel about this.
Yeah, if somebody's wearing a Coors Light tank top and they're standing out on their porch holding the Coors Light, with a camo koozie, they'd be Dylan.
It's true. That is a Dylan right
yelling
there.
Dylan at you.
Yeah. Well, and then the alternate Dylan is a guy who wears pastel shorts and a collared shirt and hangs
So
out
you
with
in
the boys.
college.
I know. I fell right into the Dylan. Right? But I wasn't as much of a frat boy as many Dylans are. I think you get a lot of frat boy energy from that name.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, so that's why I'm particularly special, because I might be the only white Shadrach to ever live.
It's a dying breed.
Well, no, I don't think the breed ever existed.
Well, it's black people in Amish that have the name Shadrach.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true. Well,
so-
yeah, and so the Jews refused to use it, which is funny because it's people don't know this, but it's a Babylonian slave name. You hear the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and you think that was their given Jewish names. No, that was their Babylonian names when they were made eunuchs. Fun fact.
Nice. Yeah. So I think you actually, my name is indicative of who I am. I think your name is too. And read that any way you'd like. I'm not making any particular statements.
I'm glad
on the
that
matter.
I'm sitting across from someone who's so charitable. So charitable.
We're away from the conversation. We've already shifted from what this is about.
Yeah, because you said child.
Hey, it's already freaking put on tape for the world to see until the end of time. You don't have to rub it in my face. Okay, so I got a dog now. We've been looking for some time. Picked up a shelter dog. And, one of the things about picking up a shelter dog is it fills you with all this self-importance that you do not earn, right?
No, you don't.
I did not
You
earn.
had $400.
I had $400 and I got a dog, right?
Yeah.
I did not do...
Well, you were telling me your coworkers were like, so brave.
So brave of me, awesome, great. It's a good feeling, but obviously people who make it their personality have kind of ruined it, right? Because I'm looking up all these videos the day of. I'm like, how do I best prepare to have this dog in the house? Make it feel the most welcome. And it's all these people that have those bumper stickers that say who saved who, that kind of situation. And I think if you do make it your mission, and you're trying to do it more often than just once, or that's where you find your dog, then I can see it having that sort of social impact, or not social impact.
I can't.
Really at all?
No.
No?
What? Who saved who? I can understand having a very strong bond with an animal, but
Okay, I'm not necessarily talking explicitly about that phrase, because I think we can both agree that's crazy, right? I'm sorry, I'm very animated with my hands. I don't know if you guys...
I hope you guys have heard every time he's touched the table, because I have.
Anyway, to put a cap on the point, I don't feel exceptionally brave for doing this.
As you should.
It was the cheapest option, but also, it's surprisingly easy, because you don't have to actively go on this crazy search for a breeder, and there's moral ambiguity there or whatever. Again, I don't necessarily care too much about that. I mean, I guess it's some factor, but at the end of the day, it's we went to a shelter. There was a dog there that we liked, and we didn't have to pay a lot for it. And it had all its shots and stuff. It's just they made it easy, and
This might be controversial, but this I think goes along with my famous pro-blood diamond opinion.
famous.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
then I don't know.
famous pro-blood
I don't know how
diamond opinion.
famous it can be if I've never heard it before.
Yeah. I'm pro-dog breeders for the same reason. I'm pro-cruelty, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Yeah. Just general cruelty.
For all of the PETA members out there in the audience, that is not the case. I am not pro-breeder.
But pro-blood diamond.
But what's going? We're back down on the bayou.
Pro-blood diamonds.
Jeez.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, it's weird because usually, I've
Tell the
got
people its name.
it's
The frothing
it's
masses.
nameless.
They want to know.
They're just rabid to know more about this dog. Well, this dog's named Lucy. It is it's a mutt combination, Aussie, and then something else we don't know. We're thinking Beagle. But yeah, it's really nice. It was great to have a dog that's super meek and walks up to you and is just super relaxed in the room and can just hang out on the couch while you're doing work. And I work from home. It's nice to have the companionship. So it's one of those things aesthetically, I guess, I've been thinking about since I got married. It's I need a house with a backyard so I can get a dog, right? Those were the steps on progress, regardless of how I got there. whether or not it was me turning tricks in the back alley. I had to get there eventually, So thankfully, I didn't have to do that, and here we are. I got a dog and a basement.
I like the idea of being pro shelter dog, but being definitely able and willing to do anything to acquire the shelter.
Willing to commit any crime.
Any crime.
Hey, see, in this instance, blood diamonds, it's not mutually exclusive, right? You can combine the two.
Blood dog.
Blood dog, yeah. Who did I have to kill to get this dog? Thankfully, nobody, except for my sadness, right, as I brought it into my home. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing we've done.
All right.
You're looking at me sick.
I'm going to
right
throw
now.
up.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
That's dumb.
Well,
I'm willing to, I'm gonna go grade school. Dumb.
Down to its basics.
Down
it's
to
just
its
dumb.
basics.
Yeah.
It's just dumb.
I don't know. And it's nice. And the one thing that it does that I'm not super psyched about is it sort of occupies half of my mind at all times.
Yeah.
I have to be like, okay, every hour I got to bring this dog out. But
Yeah.
it helps you grow, It gives you, I'm not trying to make this seem like some illumination in my life that's going to change my ways or, make me a better person in any way. I mean, it's going to make me walk more, I guess, but just nice to have. It's all purely selfish reasons, right? It's not for some self-expression and improvement in any way. I don't know.
If you noticed, I didn't say anything because I was trying to force you to just further develop some sort of mythos around you buying this dog.
I got none, dude. That's it, man. That's all there is to it. This week has been me thinking about what to do with my dog and when I got to walk it next and bringing it into the household.
Well, so my birthday's coming up along with yours.
Yeah.
And,
Well, coming up. It's another 2 months or so.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
But still.
Becky and I are already having a conversation about what we want to, do for the birthday. Mm-hmm. And she really wants to get me a lizard of some sort. So I'm just saying.
Because your apartment allows pets.
My apartment allows pets. I think that I'm going to have a stronger, more nuanced, and more enriching personal experience with this animal than you are with your animal.
Yeah, is that?
Yep.
Do we want to put? Well, we can't really put money on.
I
this,
would be willing to put money on this.
Yeah.
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 Because let's think about
what kind of lizard are you thinking about? Right? Is it going to be the kind of lizard that will return affection to you?
Well,
that's a good question.
Those don't really exist.
Well, all right. So strike one. Strike one for you.
Potentially, bearded dragons have some sort of imprinting that they do.
Yeah.
But it's going to be.
But those are high maintenance in comparison to.
Well, they're not super high maintenance. They just require a lot of space.
Yeah.
See, my first love, what I really want is a frog. Mm-hmm. But the problem with amphibians is that you have to use, wet substrate and all this stuff, and it smells bad. I mean, like reptiles already kind of smell bad, so it's a little added thing. So it's probably going to be some sort of gecko because they're pretty easy. Mm-hmm. If you get a leopard gecko, you don't even need to buy a special light. You just got to put calcium on crickets. This is a fun thing. You take the cricket and you put it in a Tupperware container with white powder on it. You shake it. And you confuse the cricket, and then you throw the cricket in, and eventually the gecko eats it.
There you go. See, and this is a combination of you improving your relationship with your pet and also feeding your insatiable hunger for cruelty.
It's true.
That we discussed.
It's true. You can watch this poor creature get eaten. Mm-hmm. You can't do that.
You have just beaten against the wall.
Yeah, I think you used to be able to feed dogs live food, but they frown on that nowadays.
Yeah. But I think there's laws against that.
Yeah, I think there is. Yeah. But for geckos, there's I think more of a beauty in taking care of a creature that wouldn't care if you died. In fact, might have animosity towards you. Yeah. I can imagine that a gecko, would blink the way that geckos do,
Yeah. You know a gecko blink?
Yeah. So you're dead on the floor. People
iconic
always like to
gecko blink.
People always say, "Oh, your cat loves you so much. You're dead 3 days later. It's eating you."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I agree with that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree with the cat eating you.
Yeah.
But the gecko would be basically thinking the same thing. Mm-hmm. It just would be incapable of carrying it out.
Okay, I would like to know how this in any way is a closer, more fulfilling relationship.
Because it's more indicative of what it's like
in the wild?
No. It's because think about it in the way that our Lord tells us in the story of the Good Samaritan, right? You, this is a thing that is just sitting there, doesn't really, the man who is damaged, right? The Samaritan and that man are not supposed to have a good relationship, but the Samaritan takes care of him, the robbed man, and feeds him, and that's a sign of his humanity and his charity.
The fact that you're giving this affection to a thing that does not reciprocate,
yes.
right,
is much closer to charity than whatever you're doing with your dog. Your dog's begging you.
I don't know if I could argue
The
with
gecko,
that. I mean,
the
sounds
closest
legit.
thing the gecko's going to do is sit on my hand and maybe go, bleh. It's going to stick its tongue out.
Blet.
It's going to stick its tongue out at me every once in a while, and I'm going to be like, Lars, I love you, right?
And he's going to blep right back at you.
Yeah, it's like people who take care of tarantulas. I went through a huge phase where I was reading about people taking care of tarantulas. And first off, there's some very intense arguments in the tarantula community on whether or not you should keep water in their container. Not because they can drown in it or anything. But
I wasn't thinking that at all.
I don't
That's
know.
crazy.
That's usually what arguments come across. There's no health damage. It's just that people would be sitting there saying, oh, it's a tarantula. It can just osmosis moisture. You don't need to give it extra moisture. And then other people are saying, but I think it wants extra moisture.
Oh.
Right?
So it depends on how much you love your tarantula.
Well, but tarantulas, even more than geckos, will just kill you. They hate you. They will sit.
Okay. Well, this is my challenge to you then.
Yeah.
Why not get yourself a tarantula? Because obviously
No.
that's going to be more of a generosity.
I'm not trying to maximize the affection.
Okay.
And the
well, then
character development. I'm just saying that I'm going to get more from my gecko than you're going to get from your dog.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
That is exactly what I'm saying. Now, if it was a frog, I would be even more enthralled by said creature.
Yeah.
Yesterday,
But it's too high maintenance for you.
yeah. Well, yesterday, me and my wife were watching a nature documentary. Right. I wanted to watch the ones about the ocean. She wanted to watch the ones about the land. It was an argument. No, it wasn't. But we watched the episode about the jungle, and it was like, and in the Amazon, there are so many types of frogs. And I literally was like, yeah! Woo! And we got some photos of some good frogs. They didn't talk about any of them, but we got some good images.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I mean, what are we doing on time? How are we doing on time? I'm wondering if we have time to unpack this.
19 minutes.
19 minutes? Perfect. We have time to unpack
It just
this.
started, man.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so then where do you think this obsession with frogs came from?
Where do
you think this obsession? I don't know. I'm slurring my words.
You got to be confident in what you're saying.
It's true. Well, you know me. The self-confidence is just
I mean, that's why you have a podcast,
it's
right?
deep in a hole, and I keep trying to dig for it. You know.
Well, frogs, I love frogs because of a couple of things. One, because they're blank expressions. I mean, look at that thing. It looks like there's nobody home, but there is somebody home. Somebody who has one thing in mind, and that's hopping. Those boys hop. I don't know. I mean,
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Josh is over there smirking at me.
Yeah.
He understands.
They
understands
hopping?
why
Yeah.
frogs be hopping. But
Frogs be hopping.
Frogs be
Well,
hopping.
okay.
Well, I think,
All right, keep going.
Look,
All right, I'm going to give you the benefit of the
this
doubt
is a
here.
classic thing. You know, the furries have taught this for ages. But every animal has
deep lore.
has a certain
Je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, that's definitely not the word, but
but that's true.
phrase or
Yeah.
they have an aura, right?
Yeah.
Aura. They exude certain emotions or certain human traits, and for some reason, I've always just been most gravitated towards the frog, the humble amphibian.
Do you think it's because you resonate, like you personally see yourself in the frogs?
I think so.
Reflection. Okay.
I love how they croak. Yeah, I feel like I croak.
Yeah.
I could croak.
I mean, I don't know if you do croak, but I think you could croak.
Could croak, and one day I will croak.
It's gonna be a sad day, and then your gecko's gonna eat you.
Yeah.
After 3 days, it's gonna crawl
Out of its pen.
This blip all over
Yeah.
you until you're dissolved. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's. Let me just say that at least my wife has always found it strange how much you've been into frogs. You know, same.
She's mentioned that.
Well, you're always posting things on Twitter about frogs and stuff, and she's always like,
every once in a while.
I do not understand this.
My AVI is a frog.
Yeah. Well, then I think you go through waves of frog focus, right? Like, I guess
This week on Frog Focus.
Yeah. This week on frog focus,
We've rebranded. We're now Frog Focus.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's so early in this podcast life, we could really be anything.
That's true.
Frog focus, but do you think we could do a tight hour on frogs
Every week.
Yeah, every week. I don't know. I mean, hey, we're gonna find out on Frog Focus.
I feel like I'm talking about frogs. This isn't even my whale.
It's true. It's not even your whale.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about pets. You know, it's the general topic.
Yeah.
You know, I will say it is nice to have a thing in the room when you're working from home that you can like look to at the very least and be like, I am not alone. There's another being in here that at least gives.
Okay. What do you believe? What do you
space.
believe is a more enriching experience? All right, you're sitting there.
Why does this all have to be comparative? Why does it have to be a contest?
Because it has to be.
Okay,
because it has to be.
All right.
So you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, okay, I'm inputting data I am doing literally every job in existence. I'm opening a spreadsheet. I'm looking at the bad spreadsheet.
Yeah.
My eyes hurt.
And I'm like,
I'm tapping.
Man, I wish these numbers in the spreadsheet were larger than they are, man. This sucks.
Well, you wish the numbers were larger, but also you kind of wish they were smaller.
Be less
Sitting
typing.
there, and you're sitting there, you're typing, and you say, man, I really need a break from this. And you look over, and on the couch in your office or something, because we both have couches in our offices, you see a dog. And the dog looks up, starts wagging its tail, walks over, licks your hand.
Jumps up on my
and you go,
chair.
Lucy, it's so good to see you.
Oh, Lucy. Give her a little rub. It's great.
And then you take 15 minutes, and then you get back to work, right?
Well, I do not take 15 minutes, boss, if you're watching this.
Or you sit there, you say, man, I need to take a break from inputting these numbers. You look over, you see the iris of an amphibian eye or a reptilian eye.
Yeah.
Goes blink.
And then it blips a little bit.
And you're like, I'm filled with determination. A creature of undaunting focus. I'm back on my grind. I am back on my hustle.
I will say
it takes you less time.
Guess what? The meme answer would be to say, yes, I agree with you, but that's insane.
No,
that is psychopathic. Having that actual love and affection is so much better than whatever frickin' crap you're trying to spew right now.
No, I'm not trying to spew crap. I'm spewing the truth. I'm spewing what the people know and want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I can't wait for all these people to come out in support of Mr. Gecko over here.
Look. I'm not even saying, I'm saying it boosts productivity, not creativity, obviously.
Yeah. There's no creative
The gecko is a pet for the office worker.
It's an industrial animal.
It's true. It's a pet for the proletariat. The dog is a bourgeois creation.
True,
but you sit there and you're like, it's time to really just knock this out. Man, I can't wait to send invoices after you look at that gecko. So, all I'm saying is that one of us is clearly superior in our choice of animal.
I get it. Is it because you're threatened by me? Why does this have to be a contest? Whether or not our pets are
threatened by you? That would require us to be in the same stratosphere of productivity. Just having even a remote level of parity.
Is this what this podcast is going to be? Is just you just like dunking on me all the time? Just being like, what?
You want me to like sit here and kiss your ass? I'm not going to sit here and
No. Okay, I'll get up. Let's get off the topic.
Dylan has his brother on the show. All they're going to do is talk about how great Dylan is.
No, okay. You're right. It's important for us to have these conversations.
It's true.
We come out stronger at the end of it. Our relationships we're become closer.
How else do we get closer to the truth?
It's true, if not through conflict.
It's true.
Finding the medium in between.
Yeah.
So, the exact middle between a gecko and a dog is the correct answer.
So, some sort of bird.
Yes. A cockatoo, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, something that'll talk to you while you're working. That would not be distracting
Call you
at all.
Wage slave.
Wage slave! Rise up. You deserve better. Unionize.
No, that's what I was thinking. It would just crack the whip.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's not trying to... Because I was thinking it was calling you wage slave to motivate you to find something better.
No.
It's just trying to tear you down.
You. Do you think a bird would try to bring you up?
Well, it tries to bring itself up all the time because it can't fly.
Gosh, dude. What did I say about the stratosphere thing?
So I gotta admit that was a dumb joke. All right, let's move on to another topic. I want to ask you what your whale is this week.
My whale this week.
What have you been up to?
I have been commissioned to write an article. I have been commissioned to write an article on the science fiction franchise Warhammer 40,000.
Yeah.
Product of the Games Workshop British Corporation. God bless the Queen. And yeah, I've been inculcating myself with all things Warhammer 40K. And if for anybody out there who is familiar with Warhammer 40K, that means literally everything. I'm sure that besides food, you could probably live off of Warhammer 40K things. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Because there's so
music,
much content to
video
go
games, art, books, every form of media.
So for the people out there that may not know, right? What is Warhammer 40,000? What's Warhammer 40K? And just a quick explanation.
Warhammer 40,000 is a setting that was invented to sell miniatures by the company Games Workshop back in the 1980s.
God bless the Queen.
God bless the Queen. It's a sequel, sort of, or a spiritual offshoot of Warhammer which just Warhammer, not Warhammer 40,000, which was a fantasy board game or miniatures war game. And Games Workshop decided that they wanted to sell all of the science fiction miniatures, which were basically them just taking molds of fantasy creatures and putting guns in their hands. You can see that they even have the same molds. You go back to historically. And so they took this guy and they said, okay, we need you to construct a setting for us, just half-assedly throwing together a science fiction setting. And so he did. And he cited his primary inspiration as Paradise Lost.
Nice.
So he
exclusively, like that's the.
He said Paradise Lost, and then 2000 AD, which is the or I think it's 2000 AD, the Judge Dredd setting.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Were those the two things that were his primary inspiration? So what he created was what people have now colloquially come to describe as a grim dark setting. By grim dark, it means literally everything's bad. There's no good guys. Humanity is this huge empire that worships a dead emperor who's kept alive by sacrificing the souls of people to it. But he's, some view him as a god, and there's super soldiers and radical priests and an inquisition for establishing the worship of this dead emperor. There's aliens on all sides, all of them trying to eat or kill or destroy humanity. There's demons that are the manifestation of emotions. Yes. And all this stuff happening in space. And so a lot of it is like we took fantasy stuff and we gave it a space gun. So there's the, Eldari, the Eldar, these guys who are elves, but they have guns and they're white supremacists. There's
nice
orcs spelled with a K who have guns. They're psychic, green-skinned orcs who are psychic.
Who are green supremacists.
They're green supremacists. I think they're more just war supremacists. They want to kill people as much as possible, which, good on them. Nothing wrong with that.
Pro-cruelty.
Pro-blood diamond, all of the above. And that sort of thing. So it's absurd.
Yeah.
It's over the top.
It's a lot of stuff, right? It's a lot of fat. It's everything possible in the same soup. So it's a lot to sort through.
It is.
There's a lot of stuff there. Not all of it good or important, but if you're looking for something that just you could sit there forever.
Yes,
you've got it.
You can, and it's just dripping. And the setting is huge to the point where there's so much penumbra.
Yeah, nice word.
Penumbra.
Wow.
I have a liberal arts degree. There's so much unknown, in between the spaces, the penumbra, if you will, that allows people to kind of create their own things. And a big part of the board game, the original miniatures game, is that you put the miniatures together and you paint them and they make their own factions and all this sort of stuff. But it got so popular, and that became their flagship product, that they started to branch out into several successful video game franchises. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, novels, short story collections, poetry, weirdly enough, that sort of thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Poetry?
Yeah, but
I mean, is there one book that has some poetry in it, or is there a whole movement?
Well,
of
most
poetry?
of the books include poetry. You know how fantasy authors and sci-fi authors are, where they're let's just slam songs.
Let's slam some songs in there that
Tolkien popularized this. Tom Bombadil,
usually useless and are kind of. I'm not going to say a ways to space. Especially, I wouldn't say that about my boy J.R.R.L. God
save the Queen. God save the Queen.
God save the Queen. Yeah, we love our boys across the water and our gals. So. Yeah, I mean, it's usually just sort of fluff in there. So have you been trying to glean meaning from these poems?
Yeah, so the whole point of my article is that it turns out that a lot of people who like Warhammer 40,000 also happen to be radical right-wing white supremacists. Cringe. Now, I look, so there's a lot of high-profile examples of people showing up in Nazi memorabilia in Europe, but you could throw a rock and hit a dude in Nazi memorabilia in Europe. But a guy showing up to it just depends on what parts of Sweden you're in. Yeah. But guys showing up to tournaments wearing Nazi memorabilia, influencers in the community turning out to saying some gamer stuff on Discord,
saying the gamer words,
saying gamer words on Discord, and all of that sort of thing. So it's resulted in there being this clash of culture that I think kind of gets down to the nitty-gritty of what the setting is about. And I'll explain this. And I'm going to explain this a little further in the article. You should read it. But back in the 2010s, like nerd culture won.
Yeah.
This is a common thing. You know, Avengers came out, and what was traditionally a vanguarded, very small group of people kind of took control of what we see as popular culture.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the most concrete examples you can see outside of like Marvel is the fact that it's cool to play D&D now.
It's cool to play D&D.
A lot of very popular influencers play Magic the Gathering.
Yes.
Right, and there's a lot of sort of veneer and money behind it. It sort of is come out of the obscure.
Yeah,
right?
and the people who, you know, traditionally were not exposed to these hobbies are now being exposed to them and want to go deeper and are trying to learn more. And one of the things that they find is Warhammer 40,000, which is, in a lot of ways, the miniatures war game. If somebody's interested in playing a miniatures war game, it's Warhammer 40,000, right?
Yeah, outside of historical, but yes.
Yeah, well, even outside of historical, I mean, veterans, you know, this is something that I've learned talking to people who play in the tournament scene, like veterans who come back from war and whatnot, you know, and they're like, there's outreach organizations that get them into wargaming and all that sort of thing. More often than not, they're interested in playing Warhammer 40K. They're not interested in playing historical games or anything. Like people just, this is just the thing that people play. And so because of that, there's going to be this culture clash where you're introducing all of these people into what was traditionally a weird cadre of hobbyists.
Yeah.
You know,
and this is happens.
We can be frank, white autistic guys.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I'm saying this is a white autistic guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just white autistic guys.
Yeah.
And so...
And you can see this same thing happening with, say, Magic the Gathering, right? As sort of like this popular culture comes in and things need to be, like, legitimately so if you want to have a wider audience. It has to appeal to a wider audience. And so some things that are sort of taboo within wider society are eschewed. And a lot of the people that are left behind feel abandoned.
Yeah,
right?
well, so, and it doesn't even mean that it's not so much about acquiring a wider audience.
Yeah.
You acquire a different audience, but you don't increase the quantity necessarily of audience because you alienate a lot of your core audience. Mm-hmm. Like the kind of people, like you acquire people who are going to pay, you know, for Warhammer, this is cheap, you know, $1,500 on your product. Or you can keep the person who's going to spend $50,000 on your product. Yeah. But that's beside the point. When you make a setting like this, which initially, and everybody always argues, and the original creator, the guy who compared it to Paradise Lost, because one of the primary conflicts is about the betrayal of the emperor by a Satan-esque figure, right? And that being like a genuine rebellion that could be justified as a legitimate action in the same way that many claim Milton justified Satan's fall, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's, you know, he claimed it was ironic. He claimed it was all ironic.
Like the whole thing was
ironic? The whole thing was ironic. That it was supposed to be this sort of parody of science fiction at the time because there was this edge obsession.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's also an angle that I've heard often is that the sort of totalitarian aspects are indicative of what they believe to be the Thatcher years, right, in Britain, which is when it sort of gained that popularity.
Yes. So that was another thing, too, you know, in the Empire is the Thatcherists. Yes, God Save the Queen is the Thatcherists in Northern Ireland, that sort of thing. But the problem is that you can't market irony.
No.
You can't sell irony to kids because they don't understand it. Irony is great for hobbyists. Irony is great for a bunch of guys sitting around being like, it's really funny that we're all in on the joke, right? But if you have somebody walk into a Games Workshop store, which is one of the things that they kind of brought into that made them so popular is they bought a lot of locations and would use it to push, you know, their models on people, like drugs, plastic crack. But, you know, you can't sell that to their primary demographic of 10 to 16-year-old kids walking into a store and they're like, oh, wow, I'm going to play your board game. Tell me about it. And they're like, well, imagine if everyone was fascist. And everyone's like, wow, that's wild. And it's like, do you want to play the Stormtroopers? You know? Like, and I'm not talking Star Wars. Yeah. Right? And they're not going to sit there and be like, wow, okay, yeah, I guess. Right? Yeah. And so what happens is over time
they fetishize the aspects that often like these alt-right guys do about fascism. They're like, look at the cool armor, look at the military prowess.
There's more to it. It's actually a little bit more nuanced because
I mean, imagine so.
By creating the system though, they're still trying to make the lore as crazy as possible, as everybody's evil as possible. And you know, when somebody showed up with Nazi memorabilia to a tournament, they issued this statement where they said there's no good guys in Warhammer 40,000 at all. Right? the Imperium is this bigoted fascist backwards thing, and it's actually a cautionary tale, and blah 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 blah, and then they depict characters who are members of the Imperium in chibi art. They sell young adult novels. They sell children's books depicting these characters. It's like, oh, so you're saying that these stormtroopers are? You're saying they're the good guys, right? And the problem is that when you create the setting the way that you do, and you make it so that literally everybody's a bad guy, literally everybody is a world-ending threat, literally everything is out to destroy humanity. Like, there's a series, demon hosts that are engulfing everything. There's orcs that are unkillable. There's bug monsters that regenerate every time you kill them. All this stuff, and like literally everybody is just going to destroy humanity, and it's a lost cause.
And I mean, that points to one of the aspects, which is humanity, which is usually the thing that people resonate with as like, oh yeah, that's the good faction at the very least, or like it's the one I relate to the most. They are beset on all sides and could die at any moment, which is usually sort of a verbiage that is
saying
used in
they're
propaganda.
Good. Yes.
Yeah, to justify some
here's the problem. Here's the problem is that, it sort of justifies fascism.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Right? And, I've watched YouTube videos where guys will get on there and they'll say, nothing justifies fascism. So therefore, we should we should actually totally change the whole setting. And instead of following the Imperium, we should follow like little rebels or like mining colonies or people
which is usually how people do this sort of setting.
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing is about that is that it's boring and everybody's freaking done it. And like the reason that Warhammer is interesting is because it's miring itself in this thing that's crazy.
Yeah.
But now, as a man who has read multiple novels in the Warhammer 40K universe,
which is very cringy, a cringy thing to say.
You hear that, all my haters?
Yeah.
You can hold that against me.
They're not going to. God's going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. St. Peter's going to look at his book and say,
yes.
Nah.
The deep lore kind of justifies it.
Yeah.
And that's what's insane about it. And it's why there's this constant tension that'll always exist, is because, I know this is a crazy example, but I was watching a Little Dark Age edit where they edit, that song Little Dark Age over stuff, which is like a classic like right-winger thing to do. I don't understand why, but it was just Warhammer, and it was juxtaposing all the forces of evil versus the forces of man. And it's like, you're like, it's like, pustulant demons, rape monsters, bugs, and it's like, and the fascists. And you're like, oh, gosh, it's like, who am I supposed to side with here?
Know,
and so what Games Workshop does is they say, okay, for all of our marketing material, for all of our video games, for all of our T-shirts, for all of our books, for all the stuff that we use, like on the back of boxes, it'll be like, play as the heroic Imperium, the heroic Space Marines. These guys are literally, if what you are telling your audience, on one mouth they're saying, the Imperium is fascist. And they'll say this in public stuff. And they say, play as the heroic Space Marines. What are you trying to say?
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, play as literally the stormtroopers. And the thing is what it made me realize was, and I'm not going to be that guy to compare everything to Star Wars or whatever, but it kind of reminds me of Star Wars, where in Star Wars, it's like, there is literally everybody's coded fascist, which being coded is not the same as being, but
big statement coming out of this podcast.
But they're coded fascists, and George Lucas has said as such, and they, that they're called stormtroopers for a reason and whatnot. But in that world, there's good and there's evil.
No, yeah, very distinctly within the lore itself.
Yes, there is a light side,
and a dark
and
side.
a dark side,
which makes it very marketable and very easy.
Yes,
to present to children.
So you can be like, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. But when you're talking about Warhammer 40,000, you're saying, okay, well, the guys in blue are the good guys, right? You have to kind of create that dissonance there. And the more that you read and the more that you dig into it, the more terrible everything is, the more degenerate everything is, the more destructive everything is. And you're like, okay, if fascism is never justified, which I'm not a fascist. I don't think that fascism is justified. But in this setting, they're trying their damnedest to
justify it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so
they're creating the perfect propaganda situation.
Yes.
Right? This is the kind of thing that people lie about right? To rile
Yeah.
up populations about how the entire world is against you.
Yes.
You have to preserve, what little, culture you have left.
Yeah.
And they're actualizing it into a setting.
Yeah.
Right.
Imagine if all of the myths were real.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And so I'm just sitting here watching these people argue with each other on the internet, and I'm baffled because it seems that there's this serious disconnect over what this setting is.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, so here I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second and say that there is a tangible level of tongue-in-cheek to a lot of their writing.
Yes.
Right. So I think, there's this big conversation about, how much irony protects what's actually being said.
No.
But
So it exists in like the codexes and the stuff that the average person has. But if you're reading the novels, like me,
which is the true canon, the true
lore.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I'm knocking this bike around.
Yeah, from my boy Dan Abnett. All right. The Eisenhorn series and the Horus Heresy series, of which has 54 books.
How long is each book?
It's like 400, 500 pages. But regardless.
Is the Horus Heresy literally that long of a tale?
Yeah, that's for the first half. It's 54. Up until the Siege of Terra series, which is like another 25 books. But anyway, regardless, it's not tongue-in-cheek, right? Like, I just finished the first Horus Heresy book, and in it, it's about them learning to, like, worship the Emperor as a god, and this woman gives this monologue where she's like, well, we're not supposed to worship the Emperor as a god, but I saw a chaos demon, and that was so scary that I think we need fascism.
Yeah.
What are you trying to tell us, Games Workshop?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
that's rough.
That's been my wail lately. I'm going to write this big article about it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't know. I've talked to a lot of different people. It's funny. It's the only hobby I've ever seen where there'll be Facebook groups for it, where they'll be called like Warhammer 40K painting community, brackets, no fascist zone. It's like, what? No fascist zone? There's a hard drive article where it's like YouTuber who paints minis for a living, totally confused as to why half of his audience are radical white supremacists. I've done the reading.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm starting to think, if you really are legitimately take the setting serious in any way, it's an apologia. And anybody, because there's all these people who like crawl out and say, it's not libs. They're
Yeah, I would say
they don't know.
Yes, the setting itself is rotten, right? It has an issue.
Yeah. Now, it's rotten.
Yeah.
It's crazy interesting, and I don't think they should change it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and that's where you get into the ambiguity of the situation.
Yeah.
Is, well, if it's because that's interesting from an outside perspective and looking in. It's like it's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah.
Right. And becoming obsessed with it, especially certain aspects of it, is what breeds this sort of fascist element.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man.
But yeah, no, I mean it's a poison pill.
Yeah.
It's built in. Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's and this kind of goes to the Paradise Lost thing, because I reread portions of Paradise Lost trying to get ready for this article. And Satan depicts God as this conqueror, as this authoritarian, and then the classic line, it is better to reign in hell than serve in heaven.
Yeah.
Right.
Classic
line.
Classic Miltonian line.
Well, imagine if, like, rather than it being an entirely spiritual war, like Satan, manifested himself in ways other than the ways he already manifests himself.
Watch out. Everybody. Keep your heart guarded.
Protect your neck.
Yeah.
But manifests himself as, a 6-armed pustulant demon who eats you and all of your friends, right? And then instead of it being God, it's, a corpse, right? Other than our corpse God.
Get the hot religious takes over.
Yeah. But anyway, like a legitimate, reanimated corpse. Like, I don't know. It's taking the classic good and evil dichotomy and just exploding it in an insane way. And, you're just left sitting there just thinking, like, you just roll your eyes being like, it's obvious that if you're trying to baptize this, you're barking up the wrong tree. And also, most likely, making it super, well, what's going to happen is it's going to be lame.
Yeah.
Now,
okay, so saying that, though,
Yeah.
you can read what you just said as, well, the fascism aspect is awesome.
No. I'm not saying the fascism aspect is awesome.
It's that dichotomy.
No, it's the dichotomy, but also it's the uniqueness.
Okay.
Because what's going to happen is what happens with everything
But what
now.
is that uniqueness?
That uniqueness is it's the fascism thing.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's where...
And I think that if somebody was really... Like, somebody who would want to sanitize the setting would say, well, there's no room at all for that in any setting or any consumable product or anything like that. You shouldn't write stories like that.
Then burn it down.
Yeah. I mean, if that's truly what you want. But I agree. I think that is destroying.
No, and that's a valid, I think, misappropriated opinion, but or misfocused. But you burn it all down.
Yeah,
you have to in this particular instance, because if you're just like, okay, JK, it's not fascism anymore, and the Space Marines learned democracy, and now we're a federation, and we embrace diversity and mutants and the Xenos, and now us and the Eldar are friends, even though they're more racist than we are, which nobody talks about. All this stuff, it's like, it's just going to be Star Wars.
Yeah,
and we got plenty of that. Everything's Star Wars now.
Too much of that.
Yeah,
actually,
the nerds won. So
nerds
I can just it's a weird tension that exists, but I think particularly it's a tension that exists in all fandoms. It's a tension that exists.
No, yeah, and I think that core
in comic books,
that
it's a tension that exists, and
we talked about earlier about how
the nerds won.
The nerds won,
Yeah.
and that cultural shift means that a lot of people are being left behind, good or bad.
Well,
right?
imagine it being.
I won't put a value judgment on that.
Imagine it
but-
being less about just like comic book fans who are a bunch of like whiny guys, just like horny misogynists, right? Which
that came across very strong.
It did. It came across way too strong, and
Yeah.
I'm turning into that person. I don't want to be that person,
Yeah.
right? So it's just a different thing. And for the era that we're in right now, where everything's so political and like tense in that area, it being specifically a identifiably political conflict rather than just the generic boogeyman of the white autistic guy, then I don't know, it creates like a weird added
aspect,
dimension.
It's a lot,
So
it could be perceived as more harmful.
yeah. So, but
With
yeah.
that being said, on site, any horny misogynist out there, on site, taking you out.
Gosh, man.
Yeah.
Gosh. So yeah, that's my whale.
Yeah, I mean, you had a whale. You had a big whale this week.
I have a big whale this week.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing what you've learned. This is what this is about. Your weekly obsession is we haven't even established what this podcast is about internally on an episode at this point, but it's what
I don't think it's
Who
our
cares?
responsibility.
You freaking look it up. It's not our fault.
It's on our episode description.
Yeah, it's whatever. Yeah. Well, I think it's about time we wrap this bad boy
I don't know what time are we looking at.
Yeah.
50 minutes.
50
Oh.
minutes? We got another.
Let's slide into the page.
The slide of the page. No, do you want to do another 10? You want to, because we have plenty of stuff to talk
It's
about.
up to you. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, so this is a minor whale. And
A minnow, if you will.
a minnow I had last week. And I want to get to the bottom of this. Might be more than a 10-minute thing as to why. And this was literally 24 hours.
Yeah.
Literally 24 hours. After 24 hours, I was no longer interested in this. In fact, I was finding it hard to watch these videos. Okay. I sound like I'm about to admit to something. Very problematic.
Dylan Straley addresses the allegations.
Well, I got really into watching these strange videos of people. I'm not going to say they're strange. I understand the appeal of people restoring old toys.
Yeah.
Or like metal objects. Like one was like a cheese cutting wheel or like a candy roller. Because one of those videos went super viral.
The candy roller one.
Yeah, the candy roller
It came
one
up in
did.
my suggestions.
Yeah. And so I watched that and went down the rabbit hole of those videos. And the thing about this particular channel, and I'm sorry, I don't remember Josh, could you look up candy roller just so that I don't
Restoration.
just so I don't name his video and not give him credit for it. Regardless, he doesn't talk at all, and it's just the noise of him like working on it. Like the little zzz of the drills, and a little bit of zh of the grater. You got it.
Rescue and restore.
Rescue and restore. Love your content, brother. Love your content.
Brother in arms.
Brother in arms. that being said, got my attention for just that long. I found it super relaxing and just like gave me the feeling like I was actively restoring the thing. I don't know. And the fact that he wasn't talking added this weird additional ASMR level that I haven't fully unpacked for myself. But yeah, I don't know why I fell into that rabbit hole and just was really into these restoration things. Yeah. And I feel like I have these, what's the word? Illusions of grandeur, right? Where I'm like, oh man, maybe one day I'll get a little shop and I'll buy a sandblaster and I'll restore toys. But there's so many steps in between and there's so much hard work involved that it's just so much easier to watch this guy do it, you know, and get the
I do
same
that a lot with
satisfaction.
people who do scratch modeling or that sort of thing or build stuff. But I don't know. I that kind of reminds me of this whole algorithmic thing that Facebook does. Have you noticed this? Right, where Facebook, I think it has something to do with trying to acquire click through. But Facebook will actively show you the same genre of video over and over again once they find out that you'll sit through the whole thing. Yeah. And for me, it's always I'll watch one video of a guy doing some woodworking and just it'll be video after video.
Dude, the amount of videos I have watched of a lathe and carving things in wood is insane. Yeah. Just like, you know, I'm on Facebook, I scroll through, and then all of a sudden there's a lathe that's spinning, somebody's carving something out of, I don't know, epoxy and marbles, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I went through this one phase where it wasn't even a phase because it'll literally just be if you watch one video all the way through, where it was one of those Indian content farms. And it was like best action movie 2021. Yes. And it was just a clip from Saving Private Ryan reversed. And I watched the whole like 3 minutes because I was interested in this clip from Saving Private Ryan. But then it's just video after video of best action movie 2021. Yeah. And it's like, oh, it's from Kick-Ass. Oh, it's a clip from, you know, some movie that nobody saw from 2003 or whatever. It's like funniest movie 2022. And it's like Billy Madison, you know, school scene. But it's all like quiet and sped up at like 1.5 speed, and it's insane. And they'll have thousands and thousands of likes, you know, like over 100,000 likes.
Who's liking it?
Indian people. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, you're right.
Only a handful have to like it.
Yes,
you know?
That's true. Yeah, it's a small percentage.
Whenever I see Indian content and there's numbers involved, I'm like, look, let's do a ratio. Let's do a ratio here.
We gotta just so that we could, you know, it could be a fair fight at the very least.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, I think it's just sort of with the.
I'm sorry.
What? Are you okay over there?
I'm just thinking of every country having their view be worth less, depending on how many people there are. Yeah.
So each individual person's got less of a view. I mean, hey, yeah.
I mean, we would be pretty low because we're a very populous country. I'm not saying this to say our views are worth more, but I'd say it'd be funny if every country's views were ratioed.
Yeah, it would be funny, Shad. Be a funny thing, huh? Yeah. Mr. Warhammer over here, Mr. Imperium. Anyway,
Shadrach addresses the allegations.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird chimp brain, lizard brain thing.
Yeah,
you know that just you got to like that aesthetic change and stuff.
Hey, we're a slave to it, man. Yeah, the algorithm is insanely powerful, and I'm not above it.
No, I don't think anybody is unless they fully disconnect.
I think it's the new fast food.
Yeah,
you know, like Morgan Spurlock made that movie, Supersize Me, and it ended the Supersize era.
It's true.
You know,
which. Speaking of allegations, a lot of those.
Oh, really? With Morgan Spurlock?
No. Against the film itself.
Oh, yeah. The film's a crock, but that's beyond the point.
I was going to break some news about Morgan Spurlock on this podcast.
I'm sure that guy.
Allegedly,
I'm sure that guy. I don't know. Has some skeletons in his closet. Look at his freaking mutton chops, man. Morgan Spurlock. But Morgan Spurlock. You know, at that point, it was like, well, what are we? We're all slaves to fast food, you know, and there's all those drawings that people are like, someone's going to eat a fast food one, you know, a salad is more expensive than a fast food. Like, we don't talk about that anymore. We don't really talk about diet in the same way unless you're like a freak who's into seed oils or whatever. But we're all slaves to the algorithm, you know. Why look at phone and not read book, you know?
I personally...
Why not read Dan Abnett's Warhammer 40,000 book collection? Why read algorithm?
Did you read it or listen to it?
I read the Eisenhorn books, and I listened to the Horus Heresy book.
Okay, cool.
But because I very high production value.
I find it so hard to read nowadays in comparison to listen. It's just so much easier to do.
It's just a muscle like any other. I worked it out. I knocked out All the King's Men in 3 days, which is like a 1,800-page book, and I was like, I am now.
Whoa!
I am now ascended.
Shad's pretty cool over
Yeah,
here. He can read.
I got an e-reader.
Yeah,
We can talk about this some other time, but I am
yeah.
into the e-reader.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
I wish
it
I had
works.
one. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. I don't.